Greetings, Star Warrior.
Welcome to the Outer Rim. Today's topic has been covered by several other YouTube channels. I actually wasn't going to cover this just because of that, but one of the channels gave me a shout out, and two, he made some really good points in his video that I just wanted to talk about. It gave me some real interest in this topic in general. So Geeks and Gamers has talked about this, Mike Zero has even talked about this, and SC Reviews has talked about this. And SC Reviews said something, well, his name isn't SC Reviews, but if you don't know who he is, he's the owner of the SC Reviews YouTube channel. He's got an Australian accent, it's really cool. And he discusses the problems with Disney Star Wars even more than I do. So if you aren't subscribed to him, I will leave a link to his video in the description box below and give you guys the opportunity to subscribe to his channel. It's really cool. But the topic of today's video is the Rose Tico character and Rian Johnson's reasons for using her. So apparently Rose wasn't supposed to exist, or she wasn't supposed to get as large a part as she ended up getting. The entire Canto Bite scene, that was supposed to be Finn and Poe, but Rian didn't think that Finn and Poe were a good pairing. He didn't like the idea of two dudes going to, on a mission together. So he said this about the Rose character. When I wrote that character of Rose, she was genuinely a nerd, like someone who I would have actually hung out with in high school. She felt like a character who didn't belong in a Star Wars movie, and it appealed to me. There's so many things I could say about that statement, I almost don't know where to start. Okay, she genuinely seems something like a nerd, until the point where she stuns Finn with some sort of stun gun, or whatever it was. Now, unless Rian Johnson was being stunned by girls in that sounds like a weird way to put it. In fact, there is no real good way to put this. I mean, unless he was into being dominated by girls in high school or whatever, because the type of person who's going to guard an escape route in a military facility and wait for deserters to come past so that she can stop them is not the type of person that Rian Johnson seems like he would be hanging out with in high school. But then he goes on to say she felt like a character who didn't belong in a Star Wars movie, and it appealed to me. Do we need any more evidence that this guy does not like Star Wars? I mean, for all the people out there saying you don't have any evidence that he's not a fan, what more do you need? Star Wars, the most popular fictional franchise in the history of mankind, got to be the most popular franchise for having characters that seemed like they belonged in it. And yet, he gave significant screen time to a character that admittedly does not belong in the universe, simply because she seemed like she didn't belong in the universe. It's like this idiot has permanent brain freeze, Could you imagine Darth Vader talking to a character that seems like it doesn't belong in the Star Wars universe? No? Me neither. The inmates are running the damn asylum. That's what I gotta say about this. It's completely and utterly ridiculous. So all this was printed out in an article, and the guy who was writing the article, at the end of it, he says the following: "Personally, I like Rose's character, and I would love to see more of her in Episode 9. She's basically a female version of Lando Calrissian." Lando Calrissian seemed like he belonged in Star Wars to me. I'm sorry. I just have to wonder, for anyone who's a fan of that character, do you like her because she seems like she doesn't belong in Star Wars? The reason this person says she's like Lando Calrissian is because she came along in the second movie and she became part of the main cast of characters. Is that all Lando was? Came along in the second movie, became part of the main cast of characters? That's the accumulation of his kid. That's how you determine if a character is like Lando. Way to minimize the part that Billy D. Williams played in 1983, and in 1980. So, one of the things that SC Review said in his video that really got me thinking about all of this stuff is that if people like him weren't talking about all of this, then there would be a lot more people who ate up Star Wars, The Last Jedi. They would just eat it up, fool themselves into believing that they liked it, and then go and see the other one, the next one. And it's absolutely true. I've got first-hand experience with this. So I don't know if I've ever talked about what it was like when I left the theater after seeing this movie in any of my videos. I don't know if I've ever, made that story known. But the last scene went to black, the credits started rolling, and I sat there. And I wasn't alone. I went to the theater with somebody else. And I heard people getting up to leave, but I didn't see any of them actually leave. I sat there, I stared at the screen, and I was in something of a daze. Next thing I know, the janitor's coming in, and he's like, "Hey guys, there are no after-credits scenes. The movie's actually over. Did you have a good time? Did you like the movie?" And I looked around. The place was entirely empty. And so I got up, lied to the guy, just, give him a little nod, and left the theater. And during the entire walk to the car, walk out of the building and then to the car, my friend was trying to justify the film, trying to get himself to actually like it. I heard him talking the entire time. I didn't say anything while we were inside the building. But as soon as we got outside into the dark, cold weather, I was like, "What are you talking about? That was the worst film I've ever seen." And I ran through all these reasons why it was a terrible movie. I mean, we were just watching them slow-mo chase the freaking Resistance through space for 2 hours. I was like, why don't they just hyperspace ahead of them and, cut them off? And he tried to come up with some sort of excuse as to why not. But, eventually it didn't take long for me to convince him that it was a terrible, terrible movie right then and there. I mean, the thing about Star Wars is that almost nobody wants to hate it, It's always had some detractors, but by and large, people want to love Star Wars. And so a lot of us are kind of just hardwired to love it, even when it's bad. Thankfully, a lot of us aren't hardwired that way. I've always been a huge Star Wars fan, but I've seen bad Star Wars before, I'd seen really, really good Star Wars and really, really bad Star Wars, and I knew the difference. Just reading the expanded universe stuff, I knew when I was reading a good book, and I knew when I was reading a bad one, so I was used to, differentiating good from bad. And I just have to say, I've never seen anything in Star Wars media that was worse than The Last Jedi. And I was just sort of dazed and confused that level of horror had actually made it into the episodic series. So, anyway, tell me what you guys think in the comment section below. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share this across the galaxy, and as always, if you're listening, you are the new rebellion. You are the new rebellion. You are the new rebellion.